Episode 24 of Wasteland Weaponistics. This episode covers the Colt 6520 10mm pistol. Initially, I was going to do a video covering every pistol that fired a 10mm round in one video. However, it started to get extremely long and very confusing because the Fallout universe actually has a large variety of pistols that all use the 10mm auto round. Also, because of how Bethesda is choosing to release the Fallout 76 Steel Dawn expansion, I can't actually finish writing about one of these particular pistols. So instead, I'm just going to do a separate video for each of these designs. Now on to the subject of the video, the Colt 6520 10mm pistol. The Colt 6520 was first introduced in the Fallout series with Fallout 1 and has reappeared in Fallout 2 and Fallout 4 through the Creation Club. The Colt 6520 is a particularly interesting weapon in the Fallout universe. Not only does it use the real-world company name of Colt, but its design was also taken from a 1990s-era comic book. The comic is hard-boiled, written by the legendary Frank Miller, with art being done by Jeff Darrow, and published by Dark Horse Comics. Fun fact, Jeff Darrow later did the cover artwork for the Fallout comic book All Roads, which was also published by Dark Horse Comics. The Dark Horse series was published from 1990 to 1992. This wouldn't be the only instance of the Fallout series taking inspiration from a Dark Horse comic. The Colt 6520 is a mag-fed auto-loading revolver. The in-game description from Fallout 1. A Colt 6520 10mm auto-loading pistol. Each pull of the trigger will automatically reload the firearm until the magazine is empty. Single shot only, using the powerful 10mm round. While this design is entirely fictional, several real-life examples of a magazine-fed revolver exist, the most famous being the Dardic pistol. The Dardic is a magazine-fed revolver that uses special triangular cartridges called Trowns. The Dardic, however, does not have a detachable magazine and is instead loaded one at a time. The Dardic is the only quote-unquote successful mag-fed revolver, and that isn't saying much. The only other one I know of is a one-of-a-kind prototype, the Landstag 1900. One was made where it was entered into military trials and where it failed. After that, the designer never did anything with it, and it just stayed in his collection until his death. Now, if you want to stretch the definition of revolver, there are several other firearms that use what is called a rotary magazine. Like the 1892 Blake rifle that uses detachable rotary packets, the Savage 1899 lever action uses an internal rotary magazine, and the SRM 1216 shotgun uses a 16-round rotary 4-tube magazine contraption. So if you didn't know, the Colt 6520 in the Fallout universe wasn't originally meant to be a magazine-fed revolver. This is actually a miscommunication between some of the original developers. Chris Taylor was once asked a question about this particular pistol. The 10mm pistol, although being an automatic, has a revolving chamber, and the description even says each pull of the trigger will automatically reload the firearm until the magazine is empty. Why the discrepancy? Miscommunication between the artists and the designers, and then Chris's answer is miscommunication. I think the text was written before the art was done, or the art was redone and the text wasn't changed. Should be until the cylinder is empty, but I probably want to rewrite the description completely. To me, it seems that the pistol was more meant to be like a Mateva or a Webley Fosbury-style revolver. But because of this miscommunication, we have a magazine-fed autoloading revolver. The Colt 6520 is a hugely oversized weapon, even for the 10mm round. But that was the style of 90s comics, to push everything to the extreme. It's where comic artists like Rob Liefeld, Greg Lesniak, and many more with extreme art styles really shined. This art style slowly went away, and modern comics haven't really found a good style. Some have gone back to pre-1990s art styles, and others have turned to this weird, uncanny Photoshop. One thing about the design that always stood out to me was how the pistol seems to have some type of forward grip. So the oversized nature of the pistol might be that it's meant to be seen as more of a PDW than just a pistol. Kind of like the Wilkinson Arms Linda, or perhaps the FB Radom PM63 rack. Both of these are kind of midpoints between a pistol and a PDW, as they both feature a forward grip. Now remember, a pistol by definition is designed to be held by one hand. If the Colt 6520 is meant to be a PDW, then that could explain its size. However, we never see the pistol being used with that kind of hold. In all instances, it is held like a regular pistol. Alternatively, the reason it is so big might be to comply with SOCOM's offensive handgun weapon system. This concept came about in the 1990s. This was SOCOM's very strange requirement for a pistol. They wanted a pistol that could be used as a primary in close quarters. Now, only two competitors really entered this competition, Heckler & Koch and Colt. The result were two very strange and oversized pistols. These pistols were the H&K Mark 23 and the Colt Offensive Handgun Weapon System. These pistols were designed to fire 45 ACP plus P ammo, which is basically 45 ACP loaded to a lot higher pressure. Now this almost creates a new round, and the old 1911s were not able to securely handle the 45 ACP plus P ammo. At least to the extent that SOCOM wanted. They wanted to be able to fire thousands and thousands of rounds without any maintenance to these pistols. Colt's design was eventually rejected, so the contract went to HK. Now, it could be that in the Fallout timeline, the military went with the 10mm round, like how the FBI did, instead of adopting 45 plus P, resulting in the 10mm pistols that we see in the games, the contract going to the N99 instead of the Colt 6520. Or maybe it went to the other unnamed 10mm we find in Fallout 4 and 76. Then Colt sold the 6520 on the civilian market. This is different compared to the real-life Colt, which they kind of just scrapped their prototype and never did anything with it after the 1990s competition. Which is a shame, because it's actually a pretty weird and interesting looking pistol. You might be thinking, why would Colt enter such a weird design into the competition? Well, it's mentioned in the Fallout Bible, which is no longer fully canon, so take this with a grain of salt. The Colt 6520 has no problem feeding hollow point ammunition for small game hunting or armor-piercing rounds for larger bipedal game. This was actually a requirement for the real offensive handgun weapon system pistols. They had to reliably feed all types of different ammo. And the real Colt offensive handgun weapon system is a very weird design as well. It is actually a mashup of three other Colt handgun designs: the Colt 1911A1, the Colt Double Eagle, and the Colt All-American 2000. All wrapped up into whatever this pistol is supposed to be. Between the original Fallouts and the Fallout 4 Creation Club, there is one noticeable change to the design. On the original design, the front of the cylinders is open. In the Fallout 4 Creation Club version, they are sealed. Since the original Fallouts were in 2.5D, it's hard to tell if there are any other changes made for the Fallout 4 Creation Club version. Of all the standard 10mm pistols in the Fallout series, the Colt 6520 is the most rare. The other two standard 10mm pistols being the N99 and the unnamed 10mm from Fallout 4 and 76. These were both seemingly adopted by the military, where the Colt 6520 does not seem to have been at all. You don't find it in any military locations. This does actually align with the real-life Colt, as during the Cold War, Colt had a lot of trouble getting another pistol design to be adopted by the military, or even to be a success at all. The Colt Model 1971, Colt Double Eagle, Colt All-American 2000 were all basically failures, and never reached the popularity of just the old 1911. So the Colt 6520 is found in some of the vaults on the West Coast, and is the starting weapon in Fallout 1, so at least Vault Tech did purchase probably some number of these. It can also be found being used by the Raiders on the West Coast. In Fallout 2, they are mainly used by the Slavers Guild. So now on to the Fallout 4 Creation Club. The Creation Club is in a weird state of canon. In 2020, Emil Pagliarulo made a comment during a video interview about the canon status of the Creation Club. To summarize, Emil basically said that the Creation Club content is as close to canon without being strictly canon. He said that the Creation Club is basically parallel. To me, that basically means that everything in the Creation Club is technically canon, however, it's not strictly canon, where they can't retcon it, or it doesn't matter what they do. It's not, like, strict canon. So I'm guessing that would be very similar to the old Morrowind's official plugin mods, which were made by Bethesda. they were mods made by Bethesda, so if those are also in a weird state of canon. The Colt 6520 is part of Tunnel Snake's Rule Creation Club plugin. Enjoy a Tunnel Snakes themed adventure featuring the original Fallout 10mm pistol and a new Tunnel Snakes jacket. The pistol, created by Adam the Rizzler Ridsdale. The classic 10mm, as it's known in Fallout 4, has multiple attachments, similar to the standard 10mm pistol, but they are different. For one, the classic 10mm pistol is not able to go full auto. There is no lightweight barrel as well. The model of some of the external attachments are different. The suppressor is more cylindrical, and the reflex sight used is more of a micro red dot. The attachment point is also different. While on the standard 10mm pistol, sights attach directly to the frame, on the classic 10mm pistol, there's a mounting bracket used, much like a 1911 scope mount. There is also no compensator for the classic 10mm pistol, only a muzzle brake. The questline starts with a faint radio signal. While listening to it, there's some very nasally breathing. Following the signal's origin leads you to a subway station. Treading through the subway, you will find several dead members of the Tunnel Snakes gang, all of which have been ghoulified. On some of their corpses, you will find the classic 10mm pistol. There is no mention of where they got these classic 10mm. This creation also adds the Colt 6520 into the game as if it has always been there, adding it into the inventory of several of the weapon merchants. However, I don't believe it can spawn on enemies in the game. While doing the questline, you find that Wally Mack, a character from Fallout 3, has turned into a glowing one. On his corpse, you will find the only unique Colt 6520, the Ultimatum. This is a heavily engraved version of the Colt 6520. There are two phrases engraved into the Ultimatum. One is, "A bullet is worth 1,000 threats, and I have 12. The other is, "Be not afraid of any beast, no matter what size. When danger threatens, wield me, and I shall see to its demise." You find on a terminal that the Tunnel Snakes took this weapon from a gunner. There is no mention of where the gunner acquired this. Ultimatum has the ability to fire irradiated 10mm ammo, much like the radium rifle. How it does this is unknown. I'm not sure if Ultimatum is supposed to be a reference to a movie or maybe a comic book or something else, but it is a very nice pistol. So why they chose to include a Fallout 1 weapon in a storyline about a faction from Fallout 3, we will never know. The N99 from Fallout 3 seems like it would be a better choice for a new pistol rather than the Fallout 1 Colt 6520, but I'm not complaining. All in all, the Colt 6520, or classic 10mm pistol, is a very interesting weapon. That'll be it for this episode of Wasteland Weaponistics. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to this channel as well as my main channel, Trooper Fofo. See you later. Bye.